actually the future for Joseph Gordon-Levitt, or can he change it? The fact that Kylo likes Rey is something different. We've gotten plenty of villains who just hate each and every one of the good guys.
Okay, past and future thing. Okay, that is something that I can get behind. Okay, this is like a big thing in like Neon Genesis Evangelion and stuff like that, and a whole bunch of RPGs where you can end the Terminator, no fate but what we make, if that rings a bell. That's not what this movie does. That's not what this movie does at all. To be honest with you, I don't see that real type of connection. You mean you get potential futures, but then we just go back to space battles and you know empire versus rebellion type of thing again. That's essentially what happens. We don't get anything more than that. If Rey and Kylo left with each other after killing Snoke and the rest of those henchmen in the throne room, that would have been something different. That would have been a false. That would have been something that would have been warranting of a false future type of subtext. And honest to God, I think that could have worked. That would have been a risk that was worth taking. That would have been a risk that was worth taking for the film. Right, and that's something that a lot of critics of the film say. This is Rey and Kylo should have left together. Rey and Kylo should have left together. And Kylo was just you just felt much more genuine in that scene. Yeah, it was really rushed. They did a lot of things wrong with it, but I would have liked it, and it would have helped the film a lot if Kylo and Rey just left together, and then told the First Order and the Resistance to go fuck themselves. Alright, that would have been an amazing thing, but instead we just go back to, like I said, Empire and Rebellion again. Nothing new comes out of it. That is one of the big problems. You think Ryan is subverting expectations and bringing new things to the table, but he's bringing new things to the table and then reversing it to come back to what was already there. That's essentially what's going on here. All right, and also Ryan Johnson has basically come out and saying that this film was just for him and for nobody else. This was just his personal interpretation, and that's what he's sticking to. And I disagree with that, but at least he gave one respectful fucking response out of it instead of trying to say stuff like, "Oh, you're a man, you're a woman hater, or you're a man baby, or whatever, or you're a Gamergate man baby woman hater." He was able to give one respectful defense of his fucking film. At least we were able to get that. Because some people, Michael Bay, doesn't want to admit their faults when they're wrong. And Ryan seemed to be on that path, but at least he was able to do one fucking response.
But their bond made both characters a lot more dimensional and allowed for higher stakes for both of them.
Yes, I agree.
Who was going to turn, the hero or the villain? Now that is being on the edge of your seat.
Alright, I agree. I completely agree with that statement, okay? That's one of the only things I will agree about the film, is the tension between Kylo and Rey. That's one of the things that kind of endeared me throughout the movie, since, I couldn't see Luke be Luke. Because he wasn't there for most of the movie. Like, I don't know where Mark Hamill was at the entire time. He's just sitting there eating bonbons or something. Decker Shadow joke. But yeah, it was one of the things that really kept me into the film, was the Kylo tension thing. And I rewatched Last Jedi again with my grandparents. I'll talk about that one in like a separate video, but about like, seeing people react to it in real time. But watching it, it didn't really age as well as it could have, especially since they didn't go off together. And Mala really does point it out in his critique of the Star Wars Last Jedi that it was really rushed. Like, they didn't really try to build it up or anything like that. And, one of the big things that was really wrong with it, that I agree that was wrong with it, was that everybody was taking advice from a mass murderer. Right, Kylo was a mass murderer. He's saying all these good things, but in the context that he's putting it in, it's more or less towards a sinister type of thing. And, he's going to kill some people. So that was one of the really big things that was kind of off for me. Alright, now, like I said, I agree with this thing. But the angle didn't work as well as it could have in execution, as well as long term, because they didn't go off together. They didn't subvert that type of expectation you would get from a Star Wars movie. Okay, I'm really not sure with the connection thing with the Force. Honestly, that just seems like an ass pull. In order to have Kylo and Rey have their scenes, I would have much preferred like what Luke and Vader did at the end of Empire, where Vader was talking to Luke, and then Luke, and where like Luke is like, it, Vader's just talking to Luke. Right, I would have actually liked that. I mean, of course, they have a lot more conversation and stuff like that. Not have Vader talking to Luke and then Luke saying to himself, "Ben, why didn't you tell me that Vader was my father?" and stuff like that. So I really, really would have liked. I really would have liked it, but it kind of flew in the face of what we were going on. Though it did lead into one of the more better parts of the film with Kylo feeling the raindrop on his hand, and then Daisy Ridley's facial expressions when Rey was prowling around in the rain was really sweet, and it kind of made me feel more connected to Rey as a character because it was something genuine for her. She'd never experienced rain like that, and it was a beautiful scene. It didn't last for very long, but it was beautiful because she just didn't do much, but look at water. But she was a girl from a desert planet. She'd never seen this much water in her life, and she was having fun with it. And Daisy really did a good job acting her in that scene. But like I said, it kind of flew in the face of what was established with the Force Skype calls, because they were never really. They never. Now I'm not saying this doesn't fly in the rules of the Star Wars universe. This definitely probably could happen, but honestly, I would have preferred it if they kept it at the normal. I'm just gonna talk to you for a couple seconds and all that shit.
Is to love your family and be accepting of them no matter how shitty they are. But the whole message of this new trilogy has now been
ignoring the fact that you had basically defended the interpretation of the guy, defended the character assassination of the guy who basically encapsulated that original trilogy design. Yeah, self-awareness, please. Please, self-awareness.
become kind of the opposite. If you have an abusive boyfriend, you should not try to change him because he is not your family and you're just on different paths. You gotta let that fool go. But that's a pretty good successor to the original theme. This film fixed so many flaws of the previous film.
What? 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 Huh? That sequence there just confused me. He went from one of the big themes from the original trilogy was your family, and then what? He talks about uh it talks about don't save people that aren't your family because he's an abusive boyfriend, even though they didn't actually, had, well, while they had romantic tension, you could argue wasn't really built up in any significant way to really warrant that. And I think Raylo's kind of a dumb ship anyway. I honestly would have just went more with like the friendship thing. That's honestly more of what I felt there. But it's basically saying is like don't try to save your homicidal boyfriend because he's evil and shit. Which, of course, you wouldn't want to save him if he's evil, but considering they spent most of Rey and Kylo's scenes for most of the movie was basically just them trying to communicate with each other and not get into each other's pants, but like get in each other's minds, berate each other and then come together around a common goal, I guess, somewhat. But let's go into these flaws thing that he claims the movie fixes.
Midichlorians dead, the Jedi overlooking the rise of Darth Sidious acknowledged, Leia kissing Luke made into something normal, General Hux being one-dimensional and too serious, now he's a joke, Poe Dameron being perfect, now he fucks up and gets...
That's a flaw? That's a flaw? Not Poe. A flaw. Alright, wait. What the fuck? Those last two, Hux being over serious and dramatic, is a flaw. And Poe Dameron, in hindsight, making a move that actually gave the Resistance plenty of time to make it out of their present situation at the beginning of the movie. And not only that, set the seeds for them to actually go to Crate in order to fight towards the end of the movie. That's a flaw. That's a flaw. And Poe is a joke. Well, not Poe. Hux is a joke. That's a good thing. That's like Bernie Sanders saying, "Oh, people lining up at bread lines is a fucking good thing." Are you fucking serious? That is so stupid. So fucking stupid. What a stretch. This video amounts to either strawmanning arguments, making limp dick notions that have no sense and logic, and making excuses for dumb things that are made in the film. What the hell? That is so dumb, okay? And I'm not going to go through the Hux thing. That one's self-explanatory. Self-fucking-explanatory. But the Poe thing, a lot of people seem to really like, quote-unquote, Poe's arc, and there's a lot of people who kind of hate Poe's arc. I'm one of those guys who hates Poe's arc with an intense passion of 1,000 suns. You know why? He was made out to be, in The Force Awakens, a really badass and respected fighter pilot who was not only cunning, but was very intelligent. Alright? In the beginning of the film, did that well at the expense of Hux's character, but like I said, I'm not going to go any further than that. But one of the big issues that I have with the film is that everything that Poe does in the film is acknowledged as wrong until the end of the film, when he does the only wrong thing in the film, which was run away from a fight. That was the only wrong thing that he really did in the film, was run away at the end. Alright? And that almost led into Finn's awesome character moment that was ruined by Rose, but already did that thing. So, yeah. I'm going to show you, okay? Because, first off, he, distracts Hux. Gets himself to the edge of... Not to the edge, but he gets himself to the, Dreadnought. Takes out all his cannons. Blows up all of his cannons. Calls his fleet to come in. Is, totally inept bombing fleet to come in and fuck shit up. Which was, would have been a cool thing if it had Y-Wings. If it had Y-Wings, the scene would have been a lot more endearing. But anyway, entire fleet gets destroyed, basically, except for more than a couple of X-Wings and a couple of other ships of designations that I don't remember. Maybe an A-Wing or something like that. But basically, but in the end, it paid. Their gamble paid off. They blew up the Dreadnought. The Dreadnought died. And everybody who were going into the fight were ready to fight. Despite hearing Leia say, "Commander Dameron, disengage your fleet and blah blah blah," they went in anyway. It's one of those. It was one of those things that was shown in Rogue One, where they were like, we're not under orders to go to this planet in order to do this thing, but we're going to do it anyway because there's no other choice. And that was basically what Poe and the people in that fleet felt like was the right thing to do. Despite the objections of General Leia, who, in all honesty, goes against her character too. Of course you would want to try that fucking plan. Are you serious? What reason would she have to not go along with that plan? Alright? One of the things I was really wanting from this new trilogy was to see Leia in more of an objective capacity with, military prowess other than just being a ground soldier. I would have loved to see that. It was something that was kind of inferenced in the original trilogy. Like that one scene in Empire Strikes Back where she's telling all those pilots what to do and stuff like that. I was like, holy crap. She's helping formulate this plan with everybody. She would really do good in an official capacity if she was like the main leader or something like that. But we don't get that. Alright? Leia knows... Alright, in the original trilogy, Leia was also really okay with taking risk. Yeah, she kind of objected with stuff like, the asteroid plan, but honestly, taking out the Dreadnought, a ship that has no fucking shields, would have worked fine. That or Ryan was like, Leia knows of the incompetent bomber design. She's like, we don't have any Y wings for some reason. And she's like, no, this ain't gonna work without wiring. But they don't say that in the film, so fuck it. But the entire thing with Poe, like I said, going after that, blows up the ship. But then Leia bitches about it. Slaps him in the face, demotes him, and criticizes him for going into his X-wing. And criticizes him by saying that there's some things that you can't solve by getting in an X-wing and blowing shit up, which goes against basically everything in both trilogies. And then shortly after the First Order finds him, Poe goes in there and Poe asks Leia if he can go to his X-wing and blow shit up, and she basically says yes, despite chastising him for it earlier. And then going into the next scene. Poe's X-wing's blown up. The entire fleet is basically gone now. Alright, not the other frigates and stuff that get blown up later because of lack of fuel. All of the other, ships are taken in the hangar bay of the Raddus are taken out. And I mean taken the fuck out. They are gone. Including Poe's own ship. That takes him out of that battle. Alright, and then after the battle is over, for the first part, after they get to a safe enough distance where they can't get shot by the guns for the First Order for some reason, because gravity's a thing in space, he gets chastised by Holdo for his plan. But looking at it in hindsight, their fleet's gone. Their fleet was already almost gone anyway, but there was still more than enough ships to fight. But if they left the planet, if they had left the planet and going into hyperspace, and when I came out of hyperspace in that same situation, which of course that was going to have to be because Crate wasn't even referenced until the last hour of the fucking film. Their bombing fleet would be decimated by everything. They would be going to their ships. Everything would be decimated. All right. And in fact, if the ships were blown up with their payloads on them, then the entire Raddus would be destroyed. In hindsight, as Mahler pointed out in his video, Poe saved everyone's lives. Poe actually helped keep the Resistance alive just a little bit longer in order to find a new base, which was the objective of the entire Resistance in the fucking first place. But yet he gets chastised for it. And then he comes up with the only feasible plan that would have actually worked to get them away from the First Order so they can go and find a new base. That wasn't Crate if it was in a better written story. Alright, but the entire thing with getting the Codebreaker, that was the only thing that they had. And since Holdo was being an antagonistic bitch for more than half the movie, but I was connected to him. He was being proactive. He was trying to do what he thought needed to be done in order to save his friends and, the only people left in the galaxy to stop them, apparently. Alright? When Holdo's still being an antagonistic bitch and he mutinies against her in order to try to keep that plan alive, that was justified by how much of a retard Holdo was being. But then when Leia stuns him, after the plan fails spectacularly because Rian Johnson doesn't know how to screenwrite properly when it comes to developing a story sometimes in this movie. Sometimes he does it okay, sometimes he does it terribly. This is one of those terrible times. And then, as a result of not being shared the plan, when he wakes up after being stunned, he's like, holy shit, we're fucked. But then Leia tells him, oh, Holdo was like, me and Holdo devised a plan where we're going to Crate. And Poe is very responsive to that plan. It's like, this might work, right? Because they're, for some reason, unshielded craft, and they're in unshielded craft, but it was cloaked and stuff like that, blah, blah, blah. But as a result of that, because, the plan failed, they're found out anyway. So it was bound to happen. Alright, but that was not his fault. If Holdo had told him the plan from the beginning, Finn and Rose wouldn't have been sent on that stupid side quest, and Holdo and the First Order would not have figured out about those guys, and then they would have left, and they could have the ship keep, going into whatever. as it's blown apart and everybody else escapes, and then they could lie under the radar, trying to do what the rebellion did at the middle of Empire. Lay low. That was kind of the whole point of them trying to escape from Hux. They were trying to get away from the Empire and then lay low for their next attack. And it's just like Poe is just quartered, drawn, and humiliated in front of the public square in this movie. And it shows in the way he was treated in basically every facet of it. Because apparently we need more drama. That's really the entire reasoning for it, is because the movie just needed more drama. It needed more flair and everything like that. And that's one of the things that just encapsulates everything that's wrong with the movie. Is just everything needs to come as a virtue of the scene, not the scene coming as a virtue of the story. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed these next two parts. I was a little bit more angry if you didn't notice, and it's just because it's about 2 o'clock now, and I've been doing this for about 46 minutes now. It's almost 2 o'clock in the fucking morning. So I'm kind of tired. And, I had a pretty frustrating day at work. So my rage has just been, it's at a T. And of course, they help make me a little bit more articulate, so I guess that's kind of a good thing in hindsight, but whatever. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Don't die. Leave some helpful criticism if you need to. Don't act like a retard. Don't act like a prick. Anyway, see you guys later. I'll come at you next time with a James Gunn video over that whole controversy, because everybody is stupid.